Hello, everyone. My name is Soumya Das. I am a senior CRM consultant with Avanade and being a human in AI space. Welcome, everyone, to the Global XR Conference 2023. And I'm hosting the topic Mixed Reality in Crime Scene Investigation Practices. Well, we all know in order to keep our world safe, safe place to live in, it's important to keep the crime out. And let's see how a set of whole tools powered by mixed reality can help us to live in a safer world. With this, I would like to add to stage Rami Hamadi, who's our keynote speaker, and Dr. Rami Hamadi is assistant professor at the University of Essex and Microsoft's most valuable professional, MVP in mixed reality. Welcome, Doctor. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you, Soumya, for your moderation. This interesting entrance. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm happy actually to be with you in this session.
Yeah, I'm excited, energetic, and ready for it. So,
all right,
without wasting more time, over to you.
All right. Okay. So I'll start sharing my screen and let's start. Right. So, okay, just a sec. Let's share my window. All right. Okay, Soumya, can you see my screen now with the slides?
I will add to stage. Yes.
Good. All right. So, mixed reality in crime scene investigation, collaborative research by Mr. Michel Al-Baidan, Dr. Houshang Kolivant, and Dr. Rami Hamad. So this actually was one of the most interesting kind of work because it's for us is like a new area, but one of us is a police officer anyway. And we were thinking about providing one of the solutions for using mixed reality for crime scene investigation, especially for young investigators. So there are very little research actually started to utilize immersive technology in this field. It's a very critical field because every evidence matters, every evidence is valuable. And we will speak about...
Sorry, if I can just maybe interrupt 1 second.
Yeah.
What I see on the screen is basically the screen where it's got a chat in it. Is that what you wanted to show? just a checking question.
All right.
Um,
Can you see my screen now with the slides?
no, not with the slides. I can see your screen, but that's not with the slides.
Sorry. All right. Let me try again.
Yeah.
Show screen. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. So I think it should work right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. Oh,
No. All right. Thank you for that. Okay. Right. So I have some few topics to speak about. So basically, I'm going to speak about the problems of the current kind of traditional training for police investigators. And it's a bit of more research because we just published in IEEE Access Journal. It's one of the good, very, very good journals actually that can value this kind of research. So it's a more a research project. We came it to, we're trying to push it to be more commercial thing. So it's more about defining the problem and trying to find some theoretical and practical solution based on it. So I'll jump directly to the presentation. So basically, in terms of the current problems of forensic investigation, um, if you want to have, if you have some police officers or students in forensics, or they want to study investigation, normally you should have some kind of like a facility that equipped for all of the needed kind of skills for those students or young investigators to practice on it. Especially, it should be hand-on practice, it's not theory. So normally this kind of facilities should have some kind of like a, rooms and some kind of like a mimicking some kind of like a crime with bloods everywhere and corpses and lots of stuff happens there. And this is the way that people actually like running this kind of education business in this field. But in order to get the best practices is to actually get these junior investigators or students into the actual crime scene to see some kind of more realistic cases. So this is where we're thinking about how we can revolutionize the way of traditional kind of investigation into the next level. So several technologies actually in the last 2 decades trying to use to facilitate CSI practices, such as like mobile applications, VR sometimes, a little bit of interference with AR. And actually, the way that they stated that lots of research actually trying to state these kind of attempts, like some kind of like VR game or VR kind of simulation of what is going on, and students can wear it and try to be as if they are in a game and trying to collect all of the evidences, trying to find the most critical kind of evidence that can give a more sense of what is happening before they just arrived, and what these kind of biometrics, where they can find it, where they potentially can find it, and then they collect it and they take it to forensic lab and so on. So lots of that has been taken by VR and some kind of games in the past. As you can see, 2020 and 2017 and 15 as well. And this is normally what happens. So again, normally every research comes out from an essence of a problem happens currently. So for example, one of the major problems, like I said, bringing people to these kind of crime investigation facilities. So universities, let's say universities or police police agencies around the world normally either have this kind of rooms or facilities that mimic a crime. They can put some mannequins and they can put some bloods and some biometrics spread everywhere, so those students can come in and try to crack it. So it should have a simulation some in some sense, but the only problem is you're still limited in some kind of like this specific way. This is specific facility whenever you're trying to change how the crime looks like, but it's still limited. The other thing is it's very expensive: equipment, maintenance, renovation, because you need more simulation of the actual crime scene. And if you wanted to do the most critical kind of step, which is taking the actual like young investigators or students into an actual crime scene, then the problems start to be major, because The time sensitivity is a very critical in terms of crime scenes. So you have lots of evidence that has the nature of fastly decaying, such as a blood. Sometimes you need to know exactly when this blood has been taken off. Is it taking 1 hour, 2 hours? And that's by forensic team when they take this sample to the lab. So if you talk to students and try to educate them how they can manage in the scene, literally you can, the you can confuse yourself. Either you can divert the attention between educating students plus doing the investigation, and you wouldn't be actually able to do both. On top of that, crowdedness would be a cumbersome. You can't actually get like 20 students, a very limited room, and try to show them an actual experience which is very valuable to them. But in the other way, literally you are ruining the most valuable parts in the crime scene, which is the evidence. Add to it the risk of contamination. So some of these students are not practically um, trained how to deal with these crime scenes. So sometimes they can leave their fingerprints somewhere, or they can might step on top of very valuable evidence, such as a blood piece or whatever, anything that can lead to the criminal. So, and even the best of practice requires specific personnel that has high attention and has very strong restrictions about who can be in this crime scene. So that's actually can affect the integrity. And the last problem of this research is, if you try to use this kind of 3D reconstruction to take like an actual 3D image from the current scene, most of the most recent research is, most of the 3D scanning has lots of cracks and lots of holes inside the model, and you can't get an actual high textures or high visual textures or high resolution kind of imagery for this crime scene. So that would conform a challenge for students to study, to investigate properly. And that's actually where the problems that lead us to and give us motivation to move on. So the aim is to enhance and transform the existing training methods, and also to integrate AR technology or mixed reality to plus reconstruction technique, and find a best way to do reconstruction with integrating with the AR to produce a novel AR learning environment, utilizing HoloLens 2 as one of the AR or mixed reality devices as effective tool for aiding crime scene investigation training. So we were looking for three main objectives. The first one is to develop an innovative approach via combining two very unique, like known reconstruction techniques, such as 3D scanning plus the photogrammetry. I will show you that in a few minutes. And the second thing is to design and develop AR crime scene investigation that can actually address all of the practical standards for investigation practices. And the third thing is to assess it. We need to make sure that it's validated enough to be used in these police forces, using like most reliable research methods, qualitative and quantitative. So basically that was like, let's say this is a crime scene. And then, I'll go through a very interesting like slides right now. So research scope is to just focus on one of the places, which is actually in Kuwait. One of the researchers actually from police office, police forces in Kuwait. So we utilize AR technology and visualize the interactive tool to investigators in order to train investigators on collecting the evidence. The second thing is to use the methodology of human-centered design combined with other kind of theories in order to achieve the main objective of this study, and also to, like I said, to come up with a very complete kind of 3D scanning method that can actually deliver high quality of the crime scene. So the methodology starts first by reading what happens in the past and looking at most of recent applications related to that, and see how we can actually get benefit of what existing, what have been delivered in this kind of a domain. One of the most interesting applications we looked at was the fragments, one of the famous applications sponsored by Microsoft that can show some kind of a game about collecting evidence for crime scene investigation, and also reviewing all of the work related 3D scanning technologies that actually can benefit this case. Like I said, we use user-centered design, one of the most theories followed in terms of these kind of applications, because they would be exposed to a new, very brand new system they're never actually exposed to before, and they have to learn the system, use the application, and do the normal practices they used to do. And the third thing is to design the Microsoft HoloLens application, and to make it the best user interface and user experience possible, UI UX. So we take the most standard practices for crime scene investigation, unique investigation processes. That's actually done by Deep and Clark, 2005. And this is actually the exact stages we need to build our application for. And this is a very theoretical framework that actually incorporates most of the social construct that can actually help people to adopt this device for the future. This framework is not only explored by literature and research, it's also by predicting how those young investigators actually adopt this technology after that. It's not just one time and that's all. So this is a very structured framework collected from literature review, explored by questionnaires, and we used a very well-known model called technology acceptance model. Right, so we had to do some kind of reliable methods for assessing the system by qualitative and quantitative methods. The qualitative went through a semi-structured questionnaire with with 11 experts from crime scene investigations, senior investigators and forensics from Kuwait Police, and questionnaire 160 participants from Kuwait Police Academy completed the questionnaire, including 20 items, 26 questions, exploring all of these kind of questions that can assess the current framework in order to see how people would use it in the future. So, system design. And this is the most important part. Let's have a look. Right, so this is our crime scene. So first we started with using a FAR scanner. We put it in 9 different places. And then we scan all of this, the surfaces around. So this device is always used by people actually measuring spaces and buildings and stuff like that. It's hasn't been used in scanning the environments for the aim of getting an actual textures. It was used only to capture the size and measurements. And this is very critical because measurement is very important. When you have a blood spot of something, you need to measure it as part of the crime in order to interpret different actions can happen after that. So going back to the system design again, we used the FAR scanner X130. So we put it in different spots to cover all of the blind spots. And then we put it in a different heights. We used like 11, it can emit around 11 million point clouds in different places. And then now we got all of the structure of the room, all of the main structure of the walls and every kind of rigid surfaces. So we got these kind of point clouds distributed to cover that. The next step is to blend it with photogrammetry kind of technique. And it's a very famous kind of thing, but the integration is a bit of critical because the FAR scanner on 3D scanning by point cloud is just capturing the surfaces more than textures, and photogrammetry is the opposite. It's trying to capture the textures more than the surfaces, and we try to blend both in some sense in order to get the benefit of each, despite every one of them could actually do this kind of job, but with a big problem in it. So I will go through the details later on. And after that, we designed our system, and then we allowed the investigator to coexist in this crime scene and describe things. And they have their user interface and go over different stages based on, the system design. And they can actually go to every different kind of evidence and define what is it about and collect it as part of their practices. Right, so the first thing is system design, capturing crime scene. Like I said, we used FAR scanner. So this is a crime scene facility by University of Winchester. So Winchester University. So basically, we put it in different 9 places. We used markers. We used white balls for registration. we got a very high quality. By the way, these scanners normally used in outer space, like outdoors, not indoors. But it makes a cumbersome when you scan it in a very tight and narrow spaces like these. So we managed actually with lots of different registration and lots of adjustments to capture that in a very good quality. So this scene has been mimicked in a way to have some kind of a crime happens at that place. So it's two connected rooms. One is like a mannequin for a man killed in his place, studying on a desk, and the other side is a girl lying in a bed, and she should be killed in that side. So after 9 scans in this facility, we had the cloud points, and we had 25 pairs of a scan were matched, and the output shows a very complete 3D scan representative in textures. However, the textures wasn't actually really good to represent the exact thing. Textures and images are very important, so that's why we use the other ways. And in order to do the matching or registration for different scanning, we used a lot of registration techniques such as checkerboard and white balls that used actually with Faro scanners, if you know that. So the next step is just a sec, I think. Right, okay. Sorry about that. So this is the table of all of the cloud points and all of the 24 clusters of every scan. So can you see here in this graph, like in this table, you can see in every single scan or cluster between each, the mean is very high. It's actually on top of 50%. It's actually from 73 to 90. And this is that's the mean on it means actually if two clusters on top of each other, how much they are overlap in each. And less than 4 milli is like how, if you go closer to below 4 millimeters, how much they are actually overlapped on top of each other's. And we got very high numbers, like as you can see here, 0.73, and below 4 millimeters is 88. So that can show that a very coherent and very robust kind of a 3D, not 3D model, but a model that can form it by cloud points cloud. Sorry. And the threshold, like I said, for a better registration is above 50, and we got here a very good number anyway. So the next step is to take the cloud points out of what we need. So literally, we took this model. It's not actually a model. It's just let's say a shape of lots of different kind of point clouds, thousands and thousands. So we put it in using Autodesk Recap Pro to delete all of the cloud points out of the two rooms. It doesn't take a few seconds actually to remove all of these cloud points out of it. It's just to focus on the main two rooms. And interestingly, the scanner actually take a chance to capture the panoramic images plus the point cloud, so we can have two things at the same time. And you can still see here is a very poor quality in terms of the pictures. But here, this is just only a point cloud colored to show this kind of a thing. So the next step is to take these point clouds and trying to convert it into a 3D model, into a mesh. With these thousands and millions of point clouds can conform the scene. We tried to build some kind of connections between every point cloud. So we ended up with 31 million polygons. And this is something that any like AR glasses or mixed reality glasses or any headsets even cannot handle this amount of faces or polygons. This has to be optimized. So let's move on. In that case, in a parallel line, we had to do the photogrammetry. So the photogrammetry, lots of research have been done in order to cover every single blind spot in an interior kind of venues, such as these two rooms. And we used the best kind of camera can actually do this. We used Canon 5D Mark III with 22 megabytes images. We took over 1,457 images from 11 different positions. So we had to go like a 360 in different angles and in different heights as well, and trying to cover all of these two rooms in every single space. Plus, we use the spider checker. This is like a calibrator sheet you throw away in every different like a scanning, and this is a way to get the actual white color in every single uh, image whenever the lighting condition changes. So absolutely, in the entire two rooms, the light changes, the light condition keep it changes. Whenever you have this kind of a sheet, calibration sheet, that keeps in the post processing, you can keep the lighting condition as the same and the colors could be the same. So let's see the first result of these two blended techniques. So as you can see on the top here, on the left side, this is a 3D scan, and the right side, this is a photo from a camera. So we ended up with a very interesting kind of result, but we still have 31 million polygon, which is any device wouldn't handle it. That's on top of textures has been used. So we used actually, we tried to use reality capture, but we end up with trying um, to manually connect the or register every different scan manually, but end up with a very um, incoherent model with lots of gaps and lots of holes, and it doesn't actually give us a very complete model eventually. So we use Metashape. Metashape is brilliant in actually adding these images. So we had to actually find a way to incorporate the 3D scans for Faro scanner, and trying to use the cameras have been used by the photogrammetry and eliminate the camera inside and keep the 3D model has been made from the Faro scanner as a base and put the textures actually on top. So after that, we had to do some kind of like poster processing to make sure that all of the textures has the same kind of a color and standard for entire scene, and also make sure the lighting condition has been previously shown in the crime scene is exactly as it is. And we had to add some kind of like some visual effects to show this is a crime and stuff like that, such as traces of blood, painting the crime tool, crime droplet, fingerprints, and all these kind of things. So now the system is ready to be built. So we use the initial graph for building a system for crime scene investigation, including all practices. The development cycle actually went through this kind of interesting graph. So once you open the application, it's called Hollow Holmes from Sherlock Holmes, and it's just like a hollow. So it's taken from HoloLens. It's a blended words. So basically, once you enter the main scene, you might find different cases. The Winchester University case is just the one. You can enter millions of cases, whatever you want. Once you arrive there, the main four stages. Stage one is look around. Once the police officer arrives to the crime scene, trying to figure out what happens in that place. So whenever an interaction happens, move to add markers, which is actually the markers that should be set next to each evidence. And then whenever it's done, check victims. It's already there, trying to send the evidence to the crimes in the forensic lab, virtual forensic lab, and then guess a criminal as part of the investigation eventually. And then once you crack it, you will find a crime simulation that shows the entire scenario, what happens exactly before you enter the scene. And then you can exit the scene and comes back again to the enter the main scene and find each another case. So again, we used Unity, C#, and MRTK for HoloLens. So like I said, the first stage is look around. Once you just, this is the original point, you are just coming out from the room, and you have the two rooms in front of you. You have to look around and see, trying to figure out what happens in the crime scene. And then the next stage is to find the clues. So you can actually hold these markers by your hand. So basically, in this section, actually there, you can find some markers. You can take it with your fingers and try to place it whenever you feel it is a right place to detect a forensic, a biometric kind of evidence. So it has been made as some kind of like a practice. So the senior investigator could be actually coexist in there and see how the students actually perform it. It could be one person, and it could be several people actually in this room together, they can actually work together to crack it. So there is a board there. It has 25 evidence, and you have to collect 25 marker and distribute it everywhere in order to cover the exact right place for these evidence. This is a very important skill based on the senior investigators about how to define where it potentially could be an evidence and ask the forensic team to collect this evidence, take photos of it, and to measure it and send it to the forensic lab. And that's actually the main purpose of this stage. So once you collect all of the 25, well done. Now you move to the third stage, which is check victims. So you have to travel to, like, move around to the victims. So this stage should be in order. Once you send this for evidence to forensic lab, it should come back again with some results and some data. So basically, the data will be assigned to the victims and the crime scene. So basically, once you arrive to this lady, you'll find a button. Once you click, you need to see what happens. So you can see information. This is Lisa, and this is what exactly can do, what her blood pressure, blood type, occupation, ethnicity, everything, and address, what how the condition of the of this corpus, like found dead from 2 hours. It has a some kind of like an injury from a knife, and this kind of a depth. All of this information should be there because that comes back from the crime lab, and you can see that in each. And also you can visit also the crime tool if it's exists. And if you crack it, the next stage is, all right, so we have some potential criminals. We're not sure yet. We need to investigate all of the suspects. So so it's just like a way to learn how to do investigation. It's like another kind of a skill. So basically, you need to read information, try to give percentage about this might be the suspect you're looking for, and based on different readings, and you can decide this is the it's some kind of like a game. So you need to keep reducing the numbers of puzzle until you can find the best person could be the suspect for this. And once you crack this puzzle, you'll find a very interesting button comes out. Thank you, you've already solved the crime. Click here to see what happens, and then you can see one of these suspects presented there as like a simulation, so it can go around and show you exactly what happens in terms of, you know, killing those people, leaving the evidence somewhere, and all of the 25 places you looked at, and then you can see exactly what happens. So these, by the way, taken from HoloLens about the place. And by the way, when we run it, it was like an empty room. You can stand on it and put the HoloLens, because the opaqueness is so much high here, but that's actually, there is a ground and an environment, physical environment around it, so you can see both. But the way the HoloLens can record it, it recorded in a high kind of opaqueness. So let's go over the video and see exactly how it looks like. It wouldn't take longer. So let's play it. Sorry about that. Let's make it a bit larger. So literally I was in the backyard, so it doesn't have to be.
Welcome to the Crime Scene Investigation Project. This project is sponsored by the University of Liverpool John Moores and Kuwait Police. Select your scene. Welcome to the Winchester University crime scene. You have 4 stages to complete.
So
this
keep
mission.
jumping from
You've
different
been slaughtered
stages.
and left dead.
So this is look around. So the young investigator has to go around and look at it. So so let's just keep jumping between different things. I speeded that up quickly. So you can see like a quick report about what happens in this place. So let's jump to the next stage, add markers. So basically the investigator has to go here and hold it by his hand and keep leaving it whenever he felt like this is a biometric kind of things can be detected. So let's speed that up. Anyway, you can leave some notes with the keyboard.
22.
And you can look at the victims here.
Occupation, student. Blood type, O. Address, 2 Green Street, Winchester University. Time of death, between 1400 hours to 1730.
And after that,
Time of death, between 1400 at Lisa Moore's. Sex, female. Age, 18. Date, 17. Position.
and the last stage is to guess the criminal.
When you found Alex Tree. Alex is one of the victim's university colleagues. He used to visit Alan and his girlfriend frequently. No previous.
So it's like a game, like I said. You can reduce the numbers of recommendations until you can find the best person.
Kitchen has some assault records. Tex was caught on the crime.
And after that, you can actually see a simulation of the crime. So, for example, you can see the criminal is trying to kill the person and do this kind of basic animation thing, you know, in order just to show how the robbery with murder has been done. So this is basically how the application went in that way. But the main core of the application actually is to train on the collecting the evidence. That's the most interesting kind of the part. Anyway, so let's move on. So the results actually went like with senior investigators, like we got around 11 people. They tested the application, and also we went up with some few elements they emphasized on it, like crime scene and their scanned environment. They found it's like a actual crime scene. They found it might lower the crime rates because you're training people in some kind of more scenes based on that. The tasks as well, user friendly. The investigation was a bit thorough. The immersive kind of feeling they had, the unique experience, the evidence, real investigation, clear vision, comfortable. So all of these kind of themes we have collected based on their interviews. So in terms of the 160 young investigators and police students, we got some like information about them, like what you can see here. So we have like more of the candidates were from males, 118, and 42 females from different ages. I think the majority from 26 to 34 and 35 to 45. And they have actually some knowledge about AR and VR, about 92 compared to 68. And they found actually the application or the system is a bit more useful with more enhancement. So lots of research kind of, you know, analysis about getting the best of these and to know exactly how the people reacted based on that. So we found some relations between different construct or different social construct or different feelings about what they are looking for. Like, for example, they found the application is useful and it's easy to use, and it's actually fitting individuals as a technology in these kind of things, and the task is also fitted to these kind of tasks as well. Interactivity, immersion, mobility, and this is where the questionnaire were built about. And based on that, we found that people actually feeling that this application has to be taken to a next step, to be more developed, to be more enhanced in terms of the 3D scanning, in terms of having more cases, and to be taking more into more commercial applications. So again, lots of different challenges happens as well in terms of the device, maybe a bit expensive, but we still have another challenge in the traditional investigation, which is the cost of existing facility. So comparing to that, if we're looking at the current smart glasses. The current smart glasses keeping development, and it keeps to be a bit less in terms of the size, in terms of being bulky, in terms of the specs. So it might host these kind of applications and make things much faster instead of taking people actually in real cases. So again, our novelty, we're looking around to design and develop an AR system that actually can inhabit these kind of mimicking crime scenes and give more investigators a chance to enter maybe some kind of mimicking real scenes and to investigate and try to collect evidences based on real size, like an actual size. And also the way of scanning, we try to build, as you can see the results here. This is a scanned and this is original, and this is scanned and this is original. So the way of 3D scanning actually could be implemented in real crime scene after the evidence collected. So we can actually take an archive from an actual crime scene and use it to be trained for young investigators. So we, again, for the MPEX, we wanted to increase more real world scenario by having this method. You're trying to have another effective alternative from the actual forensic centers. And also, the system could be commercialized on a larger scale, not only for Kuwait, but could be any kind of law enforcement in different contextual scenarios. For our limitation, again, we have a limited field of view for AR devices. And this is something all of the hardware companies for producing AR devices know about it. And they're trying to increase the field of view to make the experience more realistic enough. And again, the processing power, again, we had to reduce the number of polygons from 31 million to 100K, but we still needs more because this kind of decimation of the actual model can affect the quality of the 3D scanned. And finally, the limitation of AR devices, we just use a HoloLens. We haven't used Magic Leap. We haven't used more or less weighted device. We think about extending that to different devices. We can allow people to coexist, and we can allow people to communicate remotely and coexist in different crime scenes and learn more insights. And I think, yeah, that's all. We're thinking about in the future studies. We're thinking about investigating how AR could be effective in different kind of disciplines in crime scene investigation. Maybe can lead to forensic analysis and so on. And also, we need to do some kind of critical comparison between two controlled group and see how people actually get more insights about the skills enhancement in both sides. And finally, we're aiming to integrate AI and machine learning in the future, so we can actually enhance the current investigation practices for the investigators. That's all. And thank you for listening. And I'm happy to take questions from you. I think you're muted, Samia. Samia, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry. Thank you so much for sharing that complete deck. I think that was amazing. I and thanks a lot for sharing that application and taking us through a peek view of how it would basically look like. I've just one particular question coming up by Alyssa Pine. I'll just read out. Why would you choose for AR instead of VR in this case?
Right. So the problem is most of the VR applications is restricting the mobility for these kind of investigation. And the VR doesn't give you an actual feeling of the real environment. So when we had that 3D scanner, it's actually a life size. So when you go to a wide venue and place this crime scene exactly on top of the real environment, or on top of the real ground, so you feel suddenly you are in this crime scene, and also you have the chance to go around like moving around and looking behind the sofas, beneath the table, and you can move freely without health and safety issues, without interfering with any kind of side effects of the VR, such as nausea, or feeling not feeling well about that. So the AR, for to wrap up that up, AR can give you high level of mobility, reducing the other negative effects of for VR, and also allow you to feel that you are really coexisting in a real crime scene environment. And that's actually can help different students to coexist in one place and to train it without being blocked in terms of seeing each other in the actual place.
Okay, thanks for the reply. Um, I think you spoke about the problem statements which the students face. You spoke about using the HoloLens 2.0 version, or taking us through the system design. You also spoke about using the Faro Focus scanners, which is capturing accurate and complete measurements of complex interiors in general and facilities within. Um, I want to know if you what's your hardest part in it? Did you face any challenges that you probably might have not been dealing it with daily, but even if one off, if you could just share a few words.
Right. I think the most complicated part is, which is still a challenge for everyone, is to do a real 3D scanning, capturing all of the actual features of crime scene, or not, doesn't say exact right, crime scene, but could be any interior place. The problem is FAR scanners designed to for like exterior spaces, and doesn't it's not made for capturing high resolution pictures. And for crime scene natures, you require entire crime scene without cracks, without holes, without visual artifacts, without in a high level of quality in terms of textures and images. And also the size is very important. Like um, whenever whenever people go to the crime scene, they spend a little time collecting the evidence, taking pictures, and once they leave, they can't actually leave the crime scene to be suspended for a long time. They had to free it for the owners again. But if they found some of the issues in the crime scene, or in the case itself, and they had a very urgent need to come back to the crime scene after it has been returned to the owners again, that's where the problem comes. But if you have some kind of like a 3D digital image of the place, with a high accuracy of the imaging, so literally in their police office, they can actually they can visualize the crime scene in their locations and keep looking at it. And they can actually enter one room, and they keep like playing different scenarios. It's not even, I know that the system has been made only for training, but imagine the feature kind of extension for that, for archiving the existing scene. So let's say whenever the crime has been investigated, all of the evidence collected, everything has been captured. So they will leave it for the photogrammetry team and people for 3D scanning. So they can go inside, capturing everything, and just go back to the police station, and they start to get a digital copy from that scene. So they can keep it as an archive, so they can visualize it in further kind of investigation, and they can show it to the jury after that. So I think this is, I know again, the 3D scanning is still a problem. It needs like spaces for the FAR scanners. Sometimes people use drones not to touch or contaminate existing evidence. But again, it could be enhanced with the drones, and you can collect all of these images and do it in a less time. So if you sorry, went back from your question again, the most challenging part was the 3D scanning in terms of the time, in terms of the complexity of it. But again, using this method, it might be resolved in some sense.
Thanks for that. I guess my last question, where do you find this source of inspiration? How did you start working with and coming up with a crime scene investigation? Did you read a lot of Sherlock Holmes?
No,
Or
right. I think I mentioned that I played the game of the game released called Fragments. It was one of the first applications released in Microsoft HoloLens 1. So Fragments is some kind of like a game. So you are in a crime scene and you need to solve that. But it was made such as like a game. And made by a CGI, not an actual or a 3D scanned environment. But when you build your system by CG, that's easy because you can build a game. That's easy. But to capture an existing scene, that was a big challenge. But for the most inspired, I think Fragments was the best inspiring thing for me. And absolutely, I like this kind of interesting stuff as well, for looking for evidence, trying to crack it, and get the answer for it. Yeah, I think that was the most interesting part.
That was really motivating, Dr. Hamadi. Thanks for joining us and enlightening us with this topic. Wish we have you for longer, but thank you so much for
Thank
joining.
you so much, Soumya.
Yeah,
Have a
see
good day.
ya. Bye
See ya.
bye. You
Bye.
too.